Let me give you a terrifying prediction. 2026 is going to feel exactly the same as last year. The same frustrations, the same broken promises, the same goals collapsing sooner than you think. And it's not because you're lazy or because resolutions don't work. It's because there's one hidden thing you keep doing that guarantees every year feels like a bad rerun. It's sneaky, it's exhausting, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. And if you don't fix it now, you might as well copy and paste last year and pretend this year will finally be your year. But if you watch until the end of this video, you'll know how to finally break that loop and make 2026 feel like a brand new life. Every January plays out like the same bad theater production. The curtain rises and everyone is acting like their life is about to transform. Gym memberships spike, planners sell out, kale suddenly becomes a food group again. And for a few weeks, it almost feels believable. But then, the show falls apart. The energy fizzles, the props get shoved into the closets, and you're left staring at yourself thinking, why does this script always end the same way? New Year's resolutions tricks you into thinking you're the problem, that maybe you're not disciplined enough, maybe you're just not cut out for real change. But that story isn't true. What's really happening is that you've been pulled into a cycle that feeds on repetition. It drains your momentum, it drains your confidence, and eventually it convinces you that trying again is pointless. But the villain behind this isn't laziness, and it's not the lack of willpower either. It's something far more subtle. And once I show you what it is, you'll never look at New Year's resolutions the same way again. Think about it. When someone says, I want to read more, it's rarely about loving books. It's usually about escaping that nagging feeling of being left behind or missing out on the latest trend. I want to save money isn't just financial discipline. It's about running from stress every time your banking app loads. I want to get promoted isn't only ambition. It's the fear of being invisible while your peers pass you by. And the second those uncomfortable feelings show up again, the boredom, the stress, the fear, your brain does what it does best. It pulls the fire alarm. Psychologically, that is survival wiring. Your amygdala treats discomfort like it's a tiger in the bushes. It doesn't care if you're staring down a predator or just staring at a blank Word document. To your nervous system, danger is danger. And your reward system, it hands out gold stars every time you escape. Scroll on your phone, grab a snack, binge 3 episodes. Congratulations, dopamine delivered. It's like having an accountant who throws a party when you find $1, but ignores the fact that you just lost 100. That's why every January feels cursed. The more you try to outrun those feelings, the faster you get caught in the same cycle. Set a goal to escape, run into the feeling, bail out, repeat. That's the trap I call the emotional avoidance loop. And here's the cruel part. It doesn't just block your progress, it convinces you that you were the failure, when really, it was this loop pulling the strings the entire time. The brutal truth is, this loop almost always wins. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is rigged in its favor. In the moment, the quick dopamine hit from escaping discomfort feels like a reward. You skip the workout, and your brain pats you on the back for self-care. And then comes the mental gymnastics. Your brain doesn't just avoid it, it builds a whole courtroom defense for why avoidance was a smart choice. I'll start fresh on Monday. I'm protecting my energy. Or my personal favorite, I'll just clean the fridge first, then get serious. Suddenly, reorganizing your vegetable drawer feels like you were stopping a global crisis, when in reality, you're just running from the discomfort of opening your laptop. Or worse, you tell yourself you'll write that important email, and 15 minutes later, you've color-coded your apps like it's an art project. That's why avoidance is so dangerous. It doesn't just steal one goal, it quietly redirects your vision for the entire year. Every time it wins, it makes the same ending more likely. And before you know it, 2026 isn't a fresh chapter, it's just last year in a different costume. Okay, I've covered what it is that is stopping you from becoming your best self. But before I go to the first solution for how to break this destructive cycle, I want you to know that my goal for this year is to help you on that journey. Please do your future self a favor and subscribe now. I've got more videos up my sleeve. I think you'll thank me later, and I thank you right now. One of the simplest ways to start breaking this loop is something psychologists call effect labeling. Fancy term, simple idea. When you name an emotion, it loses some of its bite. UCLA actually tested this by putting people in fMRI scanners. The amygdala, that's the brain's alarm system, lit up when people saw upsetting images, but calmed down when they labeled the feeling out loud. In plain English, your brain basically goes, okay, fine, you caught me, I'll chill now. Kind of like a kid throwing a tantrum who suddenly stops when you say, oh, you're mad because you broke your toy. It's the acknowledgement that matters. The real life practical version, instead of escaping the discomfort, call it out. This is boredom. This is anxiety. This is guilt. It doesn't sound earth-shattering, but it activates the rational part of your brain and reduces the intensity of the sensation, which helps create distance. Suddenly, the feeling isn't a monster running the room, it's just a thing you're noticing. It's like flipping on a flashlight in a dark basement. Once you see what's there, the shadows aren't so scary. And it works in the smallest, most everyday ways. You're craving sugar? Pause and say, this is stress talking. You're doom scrolling at midnight? This is loneliness driving me. And here's where it gets interesting. Because once you call it out, you can see how ridiculous that urge looks. Really, brain? We're about to reorganize the spice rack because we were nervous about one email? Labeling doesn't erase the discomfort, but it turns it from a command into a choice. That 1 second pause is often all you need to do something completely different. It's that ridiculously simple. A tiny label can be the wedge that cracks the loop wide open. The second way to break the loop is micro-exposure training. Basically, it's emotional weightlifting. You wouldn't walk into the gym and try to bench 300 pounds on day one. So you can't expect to handle life's biggest discomforts without some warm-up sets. Most people fail because they try to overhaul everything at once, then collapse under the weight of it. The smarter move is to train your brain to face discomfort in small, controlled doses. This is called exposure therapy, which is the same method therapists use for phobias and anxiety. If someone is terrified of elevators, you don't shove them into one and hit the top floor. You start by standing near the doors, then stepping inside for a second, then going up for one floor. Each tiny, incremental step teaches the nervous system, see, I didn't die. I just felt uncomfortable, and now it has passed. And the more your brain learns that lesson, the less it freaks out. In daily life, it is surprisingly simple. When you crave sugar, wait 2 minutes before grabbing it. When your phone is burning a hole in your pocket, practice sitting still for just 60 seconds. Send one awkward email before you let yourself have a coffee. These are baby reps, and every rep teaches your brain that discomfort is survivable. And here's where it gets fun. Once you start training, the things that used to feel like emergencies start to feel manageable. That dreaded email? Done. The cold shower? Survived. No, you're not Batman or Wonder Woman yet, but you've proven your brain is tougher than it and you thought. That shift doesn't just break the loop, it retrains your nervous system to treat challenges like training instead of actual danger. That's what makes 2026 different. Your brain has terrible taste, not just in romantic partners, but in rewards too. Your brain is basically a toddler who only wants candy. That's why avoidance feels so good in the moment. Skipping the gym, dodging the email, binging Netflix. Each one delivers instant dopamine. And your brain claps like, yes, we survived. Meanwhile, the actual reward from pushing through the discomfort, that only shows up weeks or months later. So your brain doesn't see them or ignores them. There's good news. Motivation research shows our reward system isn't fixed. What feels rewarding can be learned, not hardwired, which means you can retrain your brain by linking discomfort to real meanings. Stress doesn't have to scream danger. It can mean I'm stretching into something new. That shift is subtle but powerful. Now, how do you practice it? Start tracking wins, not by outcomes, but by the moments you leaned into discomfort. You made the awkward phone call, that's a win. You studied 10 minutes before scrolling, another win. Each time you collect a win, you're teaching your brain that effort and growth are the real candy. And here's where it gets funny. Once you flip the script, that same toddler brain who threw tantrums for comfort starts begging for broccoli because it believes it's chocolate. That's when you know you've hacked the system. When the hard thing actually feels satisfying. And when that happens, your 2026 won't feel like another year on autopilot. It will feel like you finally took the wheel. Now that you've grabbed the wheel, here's what the road ahead actually looks like. Stress stops being the wall that blocks you and starts being the fuel that moves you forward. Suddenly, the year doesn't feel like last week's trash. It finally feels like momentum. You stop collapsing every time things get tough and you start leaning into them because you know that difficulty is a source of growth for you. That meeting that used to drain you now is where you flex your calm. That project that once felt overwhelming, now it's your training ground. Instead of recycling old goals, you're recycling new strength. Each uncomfortable moment becomes proof that you're not fragile. You are building capacity. That energy shift is undeniable. Instead of dragging around the quiet guilt that whispers you're stuck, you begin to carry momentum that says you're moving. The loop that used to drain you is the same one you're now breaking over and over. That's when 2026 finally feels like a new chapter. Not because you wrote different resolutions, but because you finally stopped running and started meeting your life head on. But once you start breaking the loop, your brain doesn't always surrender. Sometimes it gets sneakier. It calls it thinking it through, but most of the time it's overthinking, avoidance in disguise. Stopping overthinking is huge, but it won't matter if you're still carrying last year's mindset into this one. That's why I made a full video on how to reset your mind before setting new goals. Because if you don't clear that slate first, every tool you just learned will collapse under the weight of your old patterns. So, if you haven't seen it yet, watch that one next. Don't let last year write the first chapter of this year. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.